Happy New Year and happy 2023. This is our first video for the new year, and we're going to be talking about the 2023 housing report by US News. They don't have so much doom and gloom in their article, and I noticed that by just seeing some gradual changes in words that they use. Instead of crash, they're starting to use words like correction or shift. So I don't think it's going to be as bad as maybe what some of the other articles that we've talked about in the past as to the predictions that were being made. So again, this is the first time that I'm actually reading this article, so I'm gonna go through it live with you and make the most sense out of what they're talking about, and then we'll come up with our own predictions. And like I've said in other videos before, I want you to take this information and you start to do your own due diligence, do your own research to figure out, is now the right time to buy, or do you have to work on a few other things like your credit, your down payment, or anything else that maybe will then get you into your house. So the first chart that we have here in the article talks about the median home price as well as the median rental price across the country. Now remember, this article I'm talking about today is going to be more of a national perspective. Remember, real estate is local, so if you are looking to relocate or buy in a certain part of the country, make sure that you are looking up specific data to that city, that town, so that way you can make the best informed decision and you're not making your decision based on information from Florida and you're trying to buy in New Mexico. Now, the next graph that we see here in the article is talking about the housing supply. Right now, as an entire country, we are at 2.7 months, which is actually an increase of 1.16% year over year. Now, when you look at housing supply, and I know a lot of real estate agents throw these numbers out there quite a bit on social media, the way you want to look at it and interpret this is anything that's under about 4 to 5 months worth of supply is technically considered a seller's market. So in that case, the sellers have the upper hand when it comes to negotiating technically on a contract. When you're anywhere between 4 to 6 months, you're kind of in that equilibrium point where the markets are fair for both buyers and sellers. And anything over 6 or 7 months of supply, you're looking at what's considered a buyer's market. So really with these numbers, it kind of gives us just a rough barometer as to who may have the upper hand when it comes to negotiating, and also the amount of homes that are on the market. So the way they come up with that number is basically they take the amount of total inventory that's out there on the marketplace in your city, and they're looking at the number of sales that take place every month. Now, when you divide the two, you get the total number of months of supply on the market. If there was nothing else that was to come up for sale, you would essentially have no homes for sale in about 2.7 months. Now, that is a shortage of inventory. Now, what makes it a buyer's market in today's world is that a lot of buyers got spooked because interest rates went up, and a lot of buyers couldn't afford what they wanted to initially buy when they first started their search. So a lot of buyers pulled out of the market, which kind of made it less competitive if you compared it to what we were seeing during COVID, where you had 10 offers, 15, 20 offers on a single house, and buyers were willing to pay $10, $50, $100,000 above the asking price, which they're all regretting that today because home prices are starting to slide. This still tells me that the market is still healthy, that there's not a lot of homes out there on the market. Yes, inventory is starting to increase, but it's not as much as you might think. So many of the real estate haters are predicting a crash, but I always argue that if you don't have the inventory, how will the market crash? People won't sell their house. There is no need to sell their house if you have a 2 or 3% interest rate. There is zero incentive for that buyer to leave that environment to take on a 6%, 7% mortgage unless you absolutely had to buy for whatever reason. Maybe you're getting divorced, maybe you got a settlement, maybe you absolutely need to purchase for whatever reason. There's still going to be those transactions that are going on. But a guy like myself refinanced my house and I'm at 2.25% rate. As much as I would love to go buy my dream house today, I don't want to pay the 6 or 7%. Now, could I get a better deal? I probably could. However, I'm taking my time, and that's the biggest thing that I've stressed to a lot of our clients is that in the market that we're in today, you can take your time, you can be patient. I'm looking on Redfin, I'm looking on Zillow every single day. I get notifications of homes that are coming on the market. I see price reductions. And until I see that one house that fits and checks almost all the boxes that I want, because one thing about me is I hate moving. So if I move into this house, that's gonna be my house for a really long time. So these are the kind of things that you wanna start figuring out for yourself. What are the boxes that you need to check for you to buy your home? Is it a single story house? Are you downsizing? Maybe your family's growing and you need a bigger home with another bedroom, another garage. All these factors you want to start really detailing out so you can be really specific about your home search, because now I can start tracking what houses are doing in certain neighborhoods that I want to purchase in. So this is the time where you want to prepare yourself to pounce on the right deal. Don't just be a hater and look at the market and say, well, things are going to crash. I'm not going to buy real estate. It's the worst investment. Those guys will always miss the boat. They're always going to be an excuse for them to not be an owner and not invest. So one of the things that the article points out is that they don't predict a high number of foreclosures to take place, simply because many of the homeowners out there are in a high equity position. And what does that mean? That means that they owe very little money compared to what the house is worth. In fact, I found an article the other day that showed an entire graph of how many people across the country own their homes free and clear. And that number was staggeringly high. So this is where, again, if the majority of people do not have a mortgage or their loan to value is extremely low, they can always get a home equity line of credit as a nest egg to tap into that money to then carry themselves over for the time being. Or worst case, they could sell their house. They don't necessarily need to get top dollar for the home because they just need to get out a few $100,000 in order to maybe carry themselves for a year until everything gets back to normal. Even in that case, you have so many buyers on the sidelines, whether it's guys that are flipping houses, wholesalers. You have a ton of people that are willing to pay cash, that have the cash to be able to take down a property, that can then decide what they want to do with it, whether you decide to rent it, whether you decide to do an Airbnb, or whether you decide to flip it yourself and make some money on the property. So there's a lot of ways that you can make money even in this market. In fact, the more turmoil there is and the more uncertainty there is, the more opportunity will be around for guys that understand real estate and know what they're doing. So you can see on this next chart, delinquencies are down 1% year over year. We're at 2.8%. Foreclosures are up 0.1%. And again, these are the kind of things that any news media outlet can spin, and they can talk about foreclosures going up. But remember, the last couple of years, you almost had no foreclosures taking place simply because of COVID. Banks weren't foreclosing on anybody. They were offering forbearances. They were offering loan modifications, and no one was getting kicked out of their house. So of course, if you have record low foreclosures, anything that comes about from that could be construed as record high or all-time highs compared to that. But then when you go back and you look at the '08 crash, the numbers of where we are today versus that are two completely different things. Now, if you're still watching this video and this is the first time you're checking out my channel, go ahead and subscribe if you're enjoying this information. And don't forget, feel free to share this with your friends and family, because that's how we can grow the channel. And I appreciate the support of all of you that have been watching the channel over the years. My name is Seanu Uyehara. I'm a branch manager with Loan Depot, helping you simplify home ownership. Now let's hop back into the video, because this is where they start to make more of their predictions as far as where the market's going to go in 2023. So prediction number one is existing home prices will fall. They're predicting a 5% national decrease in home values. There have been some other publications out there that said that we're going to have a flat market this year. So I guess if you want to take it anywhere from flat to losing 5%, that's probably going to be a safe bet for yourself. Then they also make the prediction that in some parts of the country, you may see an increase in values of up to 10%. I've seen some areas in the Northeast potentially gaining more value, which is a great thing if you live out there. But again, remember, real estate is local. So do your homework wherever you are deciding to buy, especially if you're relocating. Talk to a local expert, whether it be a lender or a loan officer, so that way they can give you the most up-to-the-minute data as to what they are seeing with housing. The next prediction, existing home sales will slow. This is something that we've been seeing since the summer of last year. We've had some peaks and valleys as far as activity goes, but I know December was down. I think I seen an article the other day about 20%. January, typically in real estate, is always another slow month because people are still shaking off the New Year's. And until you start filing your tax returns, things really don't start picking up until February or March. So I think for many buyers that are still on the sidelines, January is kind of the month where people start prepping to be able to purchase, which is a good idea. So make sure you get with your lender, start getting qualified, get familiar with your credit, and start putting all your paperwork together. So that way you have a good plan and you're ready to roll once you're ready to pull the trigger. The next prediction, builders will cut back on new single family homes. This is something that's been in the news a lot more lately, is that housing starts and building permits have been going down. So again, back to my whole point about inventory. Inventory is constricting, which is going to put pressure on prices because builders are the only guys that are creating new inventory if people won't sell. So again, the builders are not going to be stupid and they're not going to put property out there if they know that it's going to hurt their own valuations. But if they have any standing inventory, which means if they have any houses that have been sitting on the market, or maybe buyers have been pulling out because they're getting scared, they are then either renting those houses out or they are selling them to investors like myself or other retail people, or they are going to Wall Street and letting them buy entire bulk packages of inventory that's left. And then guess what they're doing? They're turning them into rentals. So either way, that inventory is going to get gobbled up one way or another. They're also predicting home rents to flatten in 2023. Airbnbs have been getting hit across the country. I've heard vacancies up to 60, 70% in some markets. So if these investors can't Airbnb their properties, they might start putting them on the market as long-term rentals, which again, may have more of an influx of inventory in that market, which could hurt rental prices, which may be a benefit if you're renting because you can't buy. So again, look at your market, see what's out there, look at some of these other predictions as far as Airbnbs go. What are the vacancies looking like? Because again, if they're really, really high, it's only going to translate to them figuring out a solution to be able to fill that void so they're not making a mortgage payment on that house. Housing starts will scale back. This is something I also touched on. Builders have been pulling back on this over the last several months. Their confidence in the market is not as high as it was prior to the summertime. This is, again, a way for them to control the inventory. There's no incentive for a builder to continue to build houses if they don't feel that the market is strong enough, or if they can move those homes in a decent amount of time so that way they can continue to turn their money, get those properties sold, and you as home buyers continue to buy up what they want. Building permits are also pulling back as well. I also touched on this with the builders, so this is also something that they continuously put out to the public. So this is actually a really good statistic that you should be keeping track of yourself, looking at building permits, housing starts. These are two indicators that are months way in advance, because if you're pulling a permit today, you still have confidence in the market probably 6 or 9 months down the road, because it's going to take you time to develop the land, build the house, market the house, sell the house. So these are really good future predictions for where builders think the housing market's going to be. Again, if they're not confident, that means they're not confident probably in 6 to 9 months, maybe even further out, depending on how big or how luxurious the house is that they're looking to build. Now, this is one that you guys would probably hate to hear. The 30-year housing rate won't fall substantially. Again, this is another thing that many people are starting to predict. Where do they think interest rates are going to be at? Safe to say, I've seen a lot of reports talking about rates coming down into the 5s. A lot of experts in the housing industry feel that if we can get to a 5% range, which means anywhere in the 5s, it starts to normalize the market a little more. 7 and 6, it still freaks a lot of people out. A lot of people are still skeptical about buying unless you're in a position where you absolutely need to, or you just have the finances to do so. But if we can get a 2% reduction, I think that'll be huge. And I think a lot of buyers would get really happy and really excited about seeing a 5 again. Let's all hope this happens. I've heard some predictions as early as second quarter, maybe even the second half of 2023. So as much as all of us are in a wait and see kind of mindset right now, again, if you agree with this, you want to start putting yourself in a position to be ready to buy, which means talking to your lender, talking to your realtor, start laying the foundation now so that way you can move a lot faster versus waiting till the last minute and then your credit's not right, you don't got enough money saved, or maybe you went and bought a new car, or you did something that you shouldn't have done. This happens time and time again with a lot of clients that I've seen over the years. So make sure that you are getting the right plan in place so you're not shooting yourself in the foot and then you got to wait another year to buy. That was a lot of information that US News put out. This was a great article. It wasn't so much doom and gloom. I think a lot of the things that they talked about was very matter of fact, and I think a lot of us have already come to an agreement with a lot of these statements. Nothing too alarming in this article. However, if you don't know where to start and you don't know what to do, you can check the link below. There's a link to my first-time homebuyers guide that will walk you through the entire process that will get you going. And if you're still watching this video, why don't you comment below house so we know that you're still watching and you support our channel. And if you found this video helpful, share this with a friend. It helps us out. Spread the love, and I'll see you on the next video.